most of the time I would be like, should we go for a hike or go to the beach? Like that was that's our daily struggle was
or
like,
springs.
What should we do today? Go to the beach or the
Shall
hot
we?
springs? Yeah.
Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Chris Adler, and every Thursday I host and post a new podcast in a new location with a new guest. You can find all the links in previous episodes on my website, adler.tv. This week's guest is Sierra Lober. Sierra and her husband, Sam, just finished almost a year of van life. That's traveling across the U.S., living out of their van. Their van is actually a Class B RV. RVs come in different size classes, A, B, and C. Class A RVs are like a big tour bus. Class C RVs are like the typical RV, looks like a U-Haul with a boxy fiberglass body with a bunk bed over the top of the driver's seat. Class B RVs, which they're in the middle, I don't know why, they're actually the smallest class of RVs with a standard body of a van staying intact, with all the features like a bed, kitchen, lounge, and a bathroom all tucked inside a van. So I met Sierra at her house in Birmingham to check out the RV and talk about what van life is really like. So for the first time ever, I am recording this podcast from the back of a van. That's also a house. It's also a house. You and your husband lived in this van and drove across the country for
about 9 months, almost 9 months.
And you just you sold everything you have. Why did you do that?
We had been saving up to travel, like long-term travel, for about 5 years. We had been saving with the goal of long-term travel for about 5 years, and then we just realized we had enough money, and we were like, let's just quit our jobs and not work for a year. And we thought the best way to make that money last would be to do it in a van and to just try to live as cheaply as possible and sell everything and be really minimalist for that year. And we only went about 9 months because the van kept breaking down, which is part of van life. So it's kind of to be expected and got to roll with it. But we put a lot of money into the van, and then we were like, okay, we have to get jobs again now. So we came back, or we would still be doing it probably.
That is
and
so
hopefully
awesome.
we can again one day. I really loved it and miss it. It was hard to come back and be in a house again.
I was keeping track of you guys on Instagram, and with every post, I was just like, oh my gosh, they're there doing this.
Yeah, it was really amazing.
They're parked on the beach right now, or they're just chilling in hot springs right now, or they're at the Grand Canyon, and oh wait, it's beautifully snowing at the Grand Canyon right now.
Yeah.
Which my wife and I were there, I think like a month or two before you guys, or a month or two after, I forget. But it was chilly, but we didn't get to see the snow.
Well, that was kind of ridiculous because we were not prepared for that at all. We kind of avoided the weather, like bad weather. We just drove around where it was sunny for the entire 9 months. We didn't see a drop of rain at all. We were in Seattle for a month. It was sunny and beautiful every day. And then we just were like, oh, it's going to rain here. We'll just go to California now. And so we just didn't see any rain. And then we went to the Grand Canyon, and we both were just like kind of dumb about it. We were like, oh, it's the desert. It'll be fine.
It's Arizona.
It was like late November, early December. I can't remember, somewhere around there. And we were like, oh, it'll be dry and deserty. And then we get there, and that night it was like, a blizzard's coming in tonight. And we weren't planning on paying to park then. We were just going to park on the side of the road in this little, like, it was safe to park and people parked their vans there, but it was kind of in the woods. And we were like, we're going to get snowed in here and not be able to get out if we park here. So last minute, we went into the actual national park and parked at an actual RV spot. And it was so amazing because they have shuttles that run in the snow. So we got to park, and then a shuttle came and picked us up and drove us to all the the lookout spots at the canyon, and drove us to the big lodges. So we got to go and sit by the fire and listen to music at the lodge, like for free, and just get a free ride through the snow. It was great. So that was really, really awesome. It turned out wonderful, and we didn't get stuck. It was like, this is the best place to be blizzarded in. We'll just stay 4 extra days until we can drive out of here. It was great.
So my wife and I have been on one van trip. Like I was just telling you, we've watched hours and hours of van stuff on YouTube. And so we were really pumped to like follow you guys and see how real people that we really know, how it really goes for them, you know? So that was awesome. We did one trip last year to the Grand Canyon. We rented a van out of Huntsville, just using this website, Outdoorsy. Quick side note, my wife and I looked at several RV rental websites, and everybody that I talked to, even on different RV websites, kept pointing me to outdoorsy.com. Evidently, they have better insurance and better billing, but that was just our personal experience. Also, Sierra, I'm so sorry for interjecting my personal RV stories into your episode. I'm actually going to do an episode in the future with my wife recapping our RV trip in more detail, so look for that in the future. Okay, now back to me accidentally talking way too much about my personal RV experience. So we went to Outdoorsy, got the van, and we had very limited amount of time. We had 1 week to get it done. So we drove, to see a whole bunch of cool stuff that we could possibly see on our way to the Grand Canyon. Stayed there. We had 2 nights in the Grand Canyon, and then we had to drive all the way back. So that was our experience. Yeah. But it was amazing. And in fact, we actually stayed at the same campground that you guys did.
Cool.
Mather Campground or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm so surprised. I guess with the snow or something, like there was less people there. I'm so surprised you guys were able to get a spot, because like we had to reserve a spot for our RV/van in the Grand Canyon like months ahead of time, and we actually had to move spots because the spot we were in was booked the next night, so we had to go to a different spot within the park. That
happened to us a couple times, but we got really lucky. Most of the time we were able to find, we didn't book in advance anywhere really. We just would be like, hey, next week or tomorrow or in 3 days we want to go to this place, let's check it out now and see what we can find. And we were really lucky, like the whole time. There were only a few times where it was pretty booked. And actually our first stop in Florida at Big Lagoon State Park, I think it is, was super booked up in advance. And we booked that like the most in advance of anything. And we stayed there for a month or 3 weeks. And everything else we were just kind of like a few days out, we would book it, and it was great.
How long did you stay at most places? And how many miles, how many states? Like how did you keep track of any of
that? Not really.
Sure.
States, I think if we count these stickers, I think we got a sticker at every state except for 2. So let's see. If I counted that right, I think 23.
Wow.
That's a lot, yeah. But we really only stayed on the West Coast for the most part. We kind of drove up the middle of the country and then went down the West Coast and through Texas to come back up through New Orleans. And like I said, we were kind of following the weather. So there were a lot of things on the East Coast we wanted to see, but the times we knew we wanted to be in Seattle in the summer and we knew we wanted to be in California in the winter. And so we were kind of working around that and like getting to those places at those times.
So awesome.
I didn't even answer your question.
No, it's great. It's just so awesome. It's the most fun thing ever. You feel so free, and it's amazing. It's so amazing. And I only did it for 1 week.
Yeah, it's amazing. We stayed in most places like sometimes we were staying only a few nights, and we stayed in a few places for a month at a time, but most places it was like 2 to 6 nights.
Okay.
And so it was kind of fast. I think it was a little bit too fast for Sam. Actually, I think he would have liked to go a little slower. And, I think everyone would, because if you have unlimited time, you would stay places forever. But I was kind of like, I want to see everything. Let's keep going. Yeah. Which it was great and no regrets at all. But it was kind of quick for a while there. And then we slowed down a little. Yeah. Like we stayed in Colorado for a month in September. We stayed in California for like 2 or 3 months overall, but moving around in California.
Yeah.
And we stayed in Seattle for a month in the summer. And that was great. Everywhere else was kind of quick.
That's so nice. Cool. Yeah. Every time my wife and we're the same way. Like we want to do everything and see everything, but we have limited time.
Yeah.
So like we're always blowing and going like anytime we go on any trip ever. But we have made a rule that it's like, all right, if we're going to go to a place and like get a Airbnb, which is what we do most of the time, 2 nights. We have to do 2 nights.
Yeah.
Because
it's a good rule.
Then you're just like, if you only have 1 night, you get there, you unpack, you sleep, and then maybe you get to do some stuff in the morning, but then you got to go. So you just feel like you're like unpacking and then packing the whole time.
Yeah.
And we figured out we got a lot more bang for our buck if at least we do 2 nights and then we get a full morning to night experience, in each place. So that's helped us out. It's helped us slow down a little bit too, just because we're like, no, let's go crazy. We got to see everything. Yeah. We gotta see it all.
That's why the van's good, because then you don't have to unpack or pack again. You got all your stuff all the time. I loved it. I would be like at a restaurant. I'd be like, let me go out to the kitchen real quick and get my to-go box, or like get me a fork or something. Just random stuff.
Oh, you guys don't have my hot sauce?
Clothes. Yeah, I've got my own. Yeah, it was nice to be like, everything I own is outside.
It's so cool. It's the weirdest feeling, and I know you felt this way because it happened to us very quickly. We were at a barbecue joint in Denton, Texas, coming back. And we ate some delicious barbecue, walked through the parking lot, got into our van, and we had the feeling like we were at our house. Mm-hmm. We were just like, we just felt home.
Yeah.
And we were in a parking lot of a barbecue joint.
I loved that. That was my favorite thing for sure about the whole experience.
Because you get that feeling, you know, that you get that, my couch. Oh, my own couch, my own. I know exactly where like my remote is, you know, like all those feelings. All my food is here. Like you're talking about, all my clothes is here. All those feelings are really transferred over to this thing on wheels.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is.
So you guys have 2 beds in this thing.
When we were living in it, we had this down most of the time. We didn't put it up, and it just pulls to here. We only needed to stand up on this half of the van, so we usually left this down all the time. And we actually had a foam mattress on here as well, so it was really nice. It was definitely enough room for 2. And we have all those little cabinets beside it, which were cool. And there's little lights up there for reading. It was nice. And then these cushions pull in this way, and this piece right here pulls out to here, and it's a full bed as well.
And just being able to like lay in here and just look out and just be like...
Yeah, that was some of my favorite posts I did, was like couch view of the day. You could just look out the back window and be like, look at this beautiful scenery from our couch today. It was great.
You got AC.
Yep, there's a heater right there.
Okay, we got heat and AC.
And we used it when it was snowing in the Grand Canyon. It works really well. That's the only time we had to use it. The rest of the time was just like sunny. And these windows were really nice when you're driving if the bed's up. So if this is up, then it's kind of cool to have these open because you can see, especially if you're driving through the mountains. It was really great for scenic drives. We didn't even use the air very much at all because, again, we just were like, we'll only go where it's 70 and sunny every day.
Yeah, why not?
Which was great. But this fan was actually built in, or it was converted in Canada. So the walls are really insulated. So it was actually totally fine when it was snowing and like blizzarded in. It was totally warm in here because all these are insulated. There's insulation underneath everything and in between the walls.
Yeah.
Because it was made for Canada weather.
That's great.
Cool, yeah. There's a fridge and a 2 stovetop burner. And this is for when you're driving so it won't rattle. Got to pad everything down in a van because things rattle a lot if you don't do that. This is propane and a microwave and a little toaster oven and a sink and a toilet and a shower. This pulls out and it hooks here. And then there's a curtain that pulls up from the floor. And most of the places we stayed had showers anyway, so we just didn't use it. But it is there if you need it. And there's an outdoor shower and there's a closet. It's got everything.
And this whole thing is like the size of just a really big van.
It parks in a normal parking spot, so it can fit. That was a big requirement we had. We wanted to fit in a normal parking spot.
Because like most normal parking spots are like 21 feet, right? Okay.
Yeah. So with the bikes, we have a bike rack on the back, and when we had 2 bikes on it, it would stick out a little bit, but not enough to matter. So it was usually we could park pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, like think of like the biggest trucks you see, like those big, dually country crazy trucks, diesel, that kind of look. That's about the footprint you've got going. And you got seating for 3, seat belts for 3.
Yeah, my grandmother went on a trip with us she lives in Seattle, and she rode with us to Mount Rainier. And she was like, this was so lovely and comfortable. And actually, our other friend drove from Florida to Birmingham with us in it. And yeah, we've had some guests drive around for a little bit with us. And then 2 of our friends went in Colorado. We did a little 3-day tour around Colorado to some different hot springs. And we had 2 friends go with us then, which they probably, like, one person should not have ridden back here when we were driving, but we made it work and it was fine and they felt safe about it. And it sleeps 4 very comfortably. So
yeah, you got the drop down bed up there, which is like a full, looks like.
Yeah, maybe. It's a little bit bigger than a full.
Okay, there you go. And then this is bigger than a full.
Yeah.
Most Class B RVs are crash rated throughout the body. Unlike many fiberglass RVs, you don't want to be above the driver's seat in that bunk bed if a accident happens in one of those fiberglass body Class B RVs. You don't want to be in a bed in a van in the back of an RV either, but at least you're going to be better off than if you were in a fiberglass body. So your grandma loved it. That is something like when Aaron and I, my wife and I were riding around, we saw a couple like vans kind of similar to ours, and every single time we're like, we got to see who's behind the wheel. We got, and it was like this, like, retired couple every single time. And so that being said, they're old, They're wise. They know what's up. They know how awesome this is, and that's why they do it. That's my guess.
Yeah, like everywhere we went when we stayed at RV parks, we were like, I would tell my friends at home, like, all my friends are old retirees now. Like, I don't have any young friends. There's never any young people. Until we got to California, there were a lot more young people in vans, but everywhere else, all the RV parks were like retirees and us. And usually they were like, what are y'all doing here? Why are you so young?
Yeah, for real.
Like, we're very lucky and it's amazing. We're really incredibly lucky, and here we are.
That's too cool. Yeah, I was blowing over, I accidentally overfilled my freshwater tank at a park. I was like filling up our water tank.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what I was doing because I only had it for 2 days. And it's like overflowing, spilling everywhere. I had more help and more assistance from the neighbors at that park than I ever would have needed. So that was great.
Yeah, I found that to be true everywhere. Everyone was really neighborly about it and was really helpful and would come and talk to you. And a couple of times people were like, can I see the inside of your van? I want to check it out and see how it's different from mine. So it was cool. I liked that sense of community.
Yeah, we felt like real van people, even though we were just faking it for a week. We felt like real van people when we were crossing back over the Mississippi to come back, and some people came like in a van very similar to ours, and we got to check their van out, and then they checked our van out, and like I like high-fived my wife afterwards. I was like, yeah, we did it. We're cool. And they were super old but super sweet, and we were just like a couple goals, What was just like your favorite like natural feature that you just like looked at and you're like, I can't believe this?
I feel like I can't. There's so many, but I'll tell you a few. I can't
Give me
pick
all
one.
of them, please.
I mean, pretty much every single national park I went to, I was enthralled with, and they were all so different and so amazing. One that I was really surprised about was the Great Sand Dunes National Park in Colorado. I'd never even heard of that before, and we went there, and that was when we were with our friends traveling around, and it was so incredible and beautiful, and I didn't think I was going to enjoy that much. I'm like, oh, it's just some sand. Who cares? Like, I love the beach, but there's no ocean here. Why do I care?
Right.
But it was so beautiful and surreal and like an alien landscape and very incredible because there's these giant sand dunes. I think they're the tallest in North America. And there's these crazy snowy mountains all around you. So you're on these big, huge sand dunes that are just miles and miles and miles. And then you can see snowy mountains in the distance. And there's like wildflowers growing through the middle of the sand dunes and these weird stream-like shapes, but there's no water. The water's all deep underground. So that was really interesting too and weird. And I loved that place.
And there's people like sledding down these giant sand mountains.
Yeah, we did that. It was great.
Nice.
It was really fun.
We were in a rush, so we walked to the bottom of the sand mountains and just took it all in, looked around. But yeah, it's
so beautiful.
It's the craziest thing. You're like, this is a gigantic beach mountain.
Yeah.
And then behind it is real like snowy mountains.
Yeah.
It's craziness.
I would say we did like the hot springs tour of America. We love hot springs and we went to as many as we possibly could. And pretty much all of them were amazing. There was one in New Mexico, in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. That's the name of the city. And it's right on the edge of the Rio Grande. And there's a hot springs and you're just sitting on the edge of the Rio Grande in the hot springs, just watching the river go by. And that was just really beautiful. It felt like you're in a postcard. And I loved that. We went there twice, actually. We went on our way up to Seattle and then on our way back home to Alabama. We were like, we have to go back there. It was so amazing.
That's great.
So pretty much all the hot springs. I love Mount Rainier. Everything in California, I loved. All of the beaches. You mentioned earlier seeing something and being like, oh, they're just parked on the beach today. That was one of our favorite campsites was this little inlet where it was an RV park in a little inlet where you got to park right on the beach. In California. I can't remember exactly where, but check out our Instagram if you want to see definite names and locations.
Yeah, where'd you guys get the name for? Is that the name of this van, Vanny Vidi Vici?
No, we just made that up.
Okay,
One of my coworkers actually made it up for us, and we were like, oh, that's great. So yeah, it's Vanny Vidi Vici with underscores after each word.
I'll put that on everywhere.
Yeah.
I'll link
We're
that
trying to be like
everywhere.
Vidi Vidi Vici, but instead we changed it to Van.
Is that something you say like magic-wise?
No, it's like we came, we saw, we conquered is Vinny Vidi Vici.
Oh,
but then we were like, we vanned, we saw, we conquered.
Oh, okay.
We were just trying to think of something clever and catchy to make up a
I'm
name.
so stupid. This whole
No,
time, I thought it was like
Latin, I think.
I thought it was like Expelliarmus or something like that.
That would be
like,
cool.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was just like a magic thing from like, I don't know, Sword in the Stone or something.
Abracadabra.
Yeah, Abracadabra.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. I thought it was in my mind. mind this entire time, I thought it was abracadabra. Wow, you don't
That's
know
great.
what you don't know, Chris.
I think it's Latin,
Okay.
but it's a dead language, so it's fine that you don't know it.
Okay, I feel better. I feel so much better. That's great. That's awesome. So does this van have a name?
Yeah, the company that converted it, so it's just a Dodge Ram van, just a normal Dodge Ram work van, and this company called Great West Van in Canada that is no longer in business from the 80s converted it. And this is actually year 2000, but that was like one of their last years that they were in business. I think they went out of business in the early 2000s. And this version of the Great West Van is called the Classic Supreme, which sounds like a pizza, but it says Classic Supreme on the side, which is cool. I didn't even answer your question properly because Yellowstone's probably the weirdest natural thing that I saw was the Grand Prismatic Spring, or just all of the springs and how strange and unusual it was. It was like nothing I'd ever seen before. It was really interesting.
Cool.
And like buffalo everywhere, which is cool. So
We're headed there. We're headed there in a couple months.
Awesome. Definitely go to, there's a spot, if you like hot springs, there's a spot in Yellowstone where there's a river called the Boiling River, and it meets this freezing river, and there's a spot right where they meet each other where you can sit in the river, and it's this perfect temperature, like hot springs, where this really hot water and this really cold water just rush into each other, and you can just sit right in the middle of it. And there's like, it's just, you're in a kind of little gorge, and there's like antelope running on the wild meadows of flowers beside you. It's really incredible. Highly recommend going there. So look up the Boiling River hot spring or something and you'll be able to find it. Or look at our Instagram and there's a picture and a tagged location.
I really appreciated that. You guys
I was trying to be able to figure it out later to tell people.
Nice. Yeah, you guys, I really appreciated you guys doing that because I'm like, okay, I don't know where the Blue Lagoon is, but I can click on this map and I can zoom out and be like, oh, that's where it is.
Yeah. I tried to tag a location and write enough of a description to where I could at least remember it if I looked back at it.
Yeah.
Because my memory is so bad and I was just doing so much so quickly. Like I said, it would be like 2 days and we're moving on to something else. And it was a lot. And it was all so incredible that I'll forget things until I look back. And I'm like, oh, wow, that was one of the best days of my life. And I forgot about it. I got to check it out again. Yeah.
It's hard to travel. It's expensive and it's tough. Like taking off of work, you know, is really difficult.
Yeah,
you guys had
stressful.
You guys had to plan for 5 years in order to take off 8 months.
Yeah.
You know, like I have to plan for 5 months sometimes to take off a week or so or whatever it is. You know,
exactly.
And so now the older I get, I'm just like, man, you got to cherish this stuff. So like I take pictures and shoot way too much video every time we go on a trip, but then I have it when I'm old and can't walk anymore. Then I can go back and look at all these pictures.
I tried to find a good balance of like being in the moment and not just posting all the time, but also posting enough because my mom would call and complain and be like, "You haven't posted in today or yesterday. What is happening? I need to know what you're doing at all moments." Yeah. And so I was trying to like keep up with, let friends and family keep up with us and see what we were doing, and also, like I said, so that I could remember later, but at the same time not be like on my phone the whole time and be in the moment. And a lot of times we wouldn't have service for a few days and I would just take a bunch of pictures but then post them later, so that was good. And also my intention with the Instagram when I first left, I was like, I'm gonna do a real life van life and be, you know, kind of making fun of the people that are like looking hot on the beach doing yoga in their bikini and like doing yoga on top of their van and stuff, because I do yoga every day. The whole time we were gone, I did yoga every day, but I didn't take a single yoga picture. I probably should have, but I was like, I'm going to be like hanging off the side of the van being like, oh, it's so hot or something, or just be like, here's me changing a tire. But then it actually was really wonderful and beautiful and surreal. So I failed at making the van life seem miserable because it wasn't. It's
a incredible and awesome and safe feeling having your whole home with you and everything you own with you on wheels, but it's also scary. What were some of the problems that you guys had on the road with the van and some like trying times? Yeah, the most trying was early on, so very beginning, first month of travel, and for about 3 months at least after that, we kept having issues that we couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. We ended up replacing the whole computer and that fixed everything and it was fine. But it would just turn itself off. Yeah.
the car would just turn itself off while driving. No matter, it would all different scenarios. Like you're on the interstate going 75, the car just turns off, and you're stuck in traffic like going 50 on a highway in Dallas, Texas, and it's like wall to wall traffic, and the car just turns off. And just you're going on a country road 20 miles an hour on a dirt road. It just didn't matter. There was no. It would just turn itself off while driving, which was really scary. Most of the time we could turn it right back on, and it wasn't. We were extremely lucky again. That's the theme of our lives. We're the luckiest people ever. And we never had any wrecks. It was always fine. We were always able to get out of danger when that happened. But the scariest time for me was stuck in traffic in Texas. It turned off, and I was by myself. I was going to get food for Sam and I, and he was at my aunt and uncle's house. And it was like super hot. The windows wouldn't roll down because the car had turned off, so I couldn't use the electric windows. So I'm just sitting in this heat, and I couldn't open my door because there was traffic everywhere, and I was in the middle of a highway. And then a cop came, and I just started crying because I was overwhelmed, and I was like, I can't get it to come back on. Normally it would just turn right back on. That time it was like 20 minutes later, it finally turned back on after a cop came, and he was like, I'm calling a tow truck for you because yours is taking too long, and mine will come faster. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. And it was so hot. And I was just like, I'm going to die in this van on the highway right now. But it finally turned back on, and I just waved at the cop and was like, bye, and just drove away.
It worked, bye.
Yeah, and it was fine. And then, but that was really stressful because we kept taking it. We took it to at least a dozen shops over 4 different states and kept getting things fixed, and it wouldn't actually fix it, and it would keep happening. So we're just spending money on fixing things that they were like, this could be the problem, let's fix it. And so we would pay money and fix something, and then it would keep happening. And we're like, well, that was just a waste of money. But I guess we ended up replacing like everything, so it's all new now, which is great. But we finally just replaced the whole computer, and it never happened again, and it's great. But that was really stressful, just not knowing the uncertainty and being like, okay, my whole home is broken down now, and I don't know what to do, and I can't, figure it out because we don't really know anything about cars. I would say if you're going to do van life, it is helpful to be a mechanic or know something.
No joke. Or like a electrical engineer or something.
Yeah.
Because, man, there is so much packed into this thing. You mentioned being kind of unplugged. Like, a lot of times you'd be in places where you didn't have service. We were like that, too, for 3 days on our trip. And just that 3 days, like, your brain feels different. Your brain, definitely. Like, it doesn't fire as like, manically.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like that feeling you get when you're like sweeping through your phone, like just like scrolling through the stress, through the social, net, whatever. Like you don't have that. And granted, once we got service, we were both like, whoa, the world, we're back connected to the world again. And that was great too. But man, having those breaks was really, really nice.
I would say my favorite part about the overall experience was just being able to be in nature every single day. So like every day we would wake up, I did yoga every day, and it would just be on my own time, like wherever I was, whatever I wanted to do. And it would, most of the time I would be like, should we go for a hike or go to the beach? Like that was that's our daily struggle was like, what should we do today? Go to the beach or the hot springs? Yeah. And we would hike, and we would be like, I just love trees a lot. And it was really nice to just be in nature and be with the trees all the time instead of being like stressed out in a city and with people. But also at the same time, I'm extremely extroverted, and I missed being around people a lot, and just being around older retirees that I had nothing in common with was like nice in some ways. But a lot of times I was like, I have no friends. I'm all alone in the woods, and it's kind of good and bad. Like now I miss it, and I want to go back into the woods and be alone. But when I was there, I would miss my friends and miss the city. Yeah. So I think it's all about a balance.
Because you were saying earlier, like you're a pretty like urban dweller as far as like in your life and like where you want to live. Yeah. Unless you're traveling. Yeah. Did you guys ever do any like in the city like stealth camping, so to speak? Like kinda. Sneaky?
Well, we stayed. Not really sneaky, but we stayed in Oakland for a month, but we actually got an Airbnb because we knew we had to get some big things replaced on the van and some work done on the van that was going to take a while. Yeah. And so we planned it out. That was one of the things we planned out in advance, and we got an Airbnb for a month. It was cheaper to get it for a month than for 2 weeks. So we were like, okay, we'll just do this. So we got an Airbnb for a month and put the van in the shop for a month because it was there was all this hail damage in that area. So everybody's car was in the shop and all the shops were totally overbooked. And we were like, okay, we'll just put it in the shop and let them take their time and work on it as they can for a month, and we won't worry about it. And we'll see what it's like to be in a house in the city, because we knew we wanted to be in the Bay Area, and there's not really anywhere you can park your van other than just on the street, which a lot of people do. But there's nowhere to like dump your toilet or like get water or anything like that if you do that.
Yeah.
And it's not really technically legal, I don't think, but a lot of people do that in Oakland.
Yeah.
But it was, so we weren't really stealth, but that was really cool because we got to be in a city for a while, and we stayed in an Airbnb that was with other people. So it was cool to be around young people again and in the city. And it was during October. So we like went to some Halloween parties, and that was really a like drastic change from, we had just been in national parks kind of alone for months and months and months.
Yeah.
So it was really nice actually. And I loved Oakland a lot, but that was the most city dwelling thing we did. And it wasn't even in the van.
I think it just shows that you're giving yourself what it needs and like what it wants. Like when you get out and into like those like into nature, it's, you feel good and you feel different, you feel rested, but then it like compels you to be much more likely to talk to strangers here and there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, it shows you like, all right, I do still crave this like human connection with people, you know?
Sure. But yeah, this awning pulls out to probably here. And we have a little table and chairs that we would set up underneath. And we have a big rug that we would put down that's green and floral. And so we would just kind of make it our own little patio when we would stop somewhere for a while.
Props for driving this thing. Like, it sounds like you drove a ton.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we usually would do like 5 to 8 hours a day. We never did more than, I don't think we even did 9, but we usually did 8 was our top a day. And we would try to do like 5 or 6 if we could on normal days when we're driving a long distance. And we would space it out and try to find somewhere to stay that we wanted to stay in between. But it wasn't, I mean, you got used to it, honestly. And it was like, it used to bother me to drive to Auburn 2 hours. I'd be like, this is forever. It's an eternity.
I have to stop
and
3
times. And then 5 hours started blowing by. I'd be like, oh, it's done already. That was nothing.
Yeah.
But 8 hours was kind of like the limit to where it would start feeling really grueling. So we didn't want to feel like that. So we would just space it out a little bit more. But yeah, we usually alternated. If we were doing long distance driving, we would just alternate who drove every other day. And so it'd be like, you drive today for 5 hours and I'll drive tomorrow for 5 hours. Yeah.
Knowing that like you can power through a whole day and then knowing that you don't have to drive the next day.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Yeah. My wife, just because we only had it for a week, she wouldn't do the interstate. Everywhere else she was good to go. Yeah. But the interstate, she was like, sorry, man, you gotta.
Sam didn't really like doing cities. Like he would do it, but he would rather me if we're going to be in traffic, because that's more stressful really than the interstate. But this van would go fast, but when you're up to 80, because a lot of those big desert highways and long stretches, the speed limit's 80 the whole time.
Right.
And so it would be like 4 hours of 80. And once you get past 75 in the van, it gets kind of scary and you feel like you're not fully in control anymore. So sometimes going 80 for 5 hours was a little stressful because you're really focusing and really being like, I have to control this giant thing and I can't look away. But luckily, Sam and I have taken a lot of road trips before this, and we really enjoyed listening to the same kind of podcasts and the same kind of audiobooks. And we usually just pick a book that we both want to listen to, and we'll just listen to an audiobook together and like discuss it and keep our minds focused on driving, but also on that.
Yeah, that's great. Plus, like you said, like you have a discussion. It gives you something new and fresh to talk about.
Yeah,
what
nice.
did you think
I missed
of that? Yeah, totally. That's awesome. We did a few podcasts here and there, but my wife and I don't listen to the same podcasts. So that led to every once in a while we would do separate AirPods. Yeah. Or I would just put mine in, just like, she'd be like, what are you doing? I was like, nothing. Yeah. Because I had my own podcast.
That happened too sometimes. Yeah. There's definitely things that we're not interested in together. But question I get asked a lot about our trip was, like, how do you not kill each other? Or how are you not like on each other's nerves so bad that you don't even want to be around each other anymore? Right. But I think we're good about doing our own thing sometimes. Yeah. And like I would get up really early in the morning and do yoga by myself outside somewhere and cook breakfast and like have a few hours alone. And he would stay up late at night and have hours at night alone. So we always had like a couple hours a day, each of us separately, that we would be alone and do our own thing. So it was pretty simple. And this, I can show you later when we're doing a tour of this wall. The bathroom turns into an actual room and it like puzzle pieces into the side of the wall here. And these doors can kind of puzzle piece in like this on both sides. So you have a private little bathroom if you need it and shower. And if you just need some privacy, you can block off to have 3 different rooms. So there was only one time where I was like, I need a room to myself, like close off the store, and you go over there, and I'll be over here.
Yeah,
but really only one time in 8.5 months. I was like, that's not too bad.
No,
but it was a possibility. We had that option if we needed to be like, I don't want to look at you for a minute.
Totally. Because it's close quarters.
Yeah.
It is close quarters.
But I loved it. I told Sam when we got back, it was like 2 weeks we'd been back or something. And I was like, I miss the van. You're so far away from me. I miss being able to reach out and touch you at all times. And he was just like, I'm right here. You can walk over here if you want to see me. I'm across the room. And I'm like, this room's too big. You're too far away.
It's amazing having like your bedroom, your lounge, your, dining room table. All of that, it really is within arm's reach.
Yeah.
My wife and I got good at the van shuffle. That's when like I need to be on this side of the van, but you're on that side of the van, so we gotta swap somehow,
Yeah.
So you
have to work together.
Yeah, it just becomes like normal. Like really, it's just like behind you, and you know that
it's like working in a kitchen. I've never worked in a kitchen, but that's what I've heard. It's like the same thing. Yeah, our friends that stayed with us for those 3 days, which is the longest anyone stayed with us in the van, they live in a tiny house that's 98 square feet, so they're already perfect at that. So they were the perfect van guests because they already know how to act in a tiny space.
They get in the van, they're like, this place is huge.
Yeah, they were like, we can handle half of this. Y'all go over there, and we already know how to walk around people in that way and share space, so it was perfect.
That is so funny. You guys have levels in this place. It's amazing.
There's all these little cabinets. We stored random things in these. There's this. We had a fern that was right here that we clipped up here, so it was growing all along, and it did really well. It thrived the whole time. It broke down in Moab, Utah, which is a gorgeous place that I highly recommend, and I really wish to go back there someday and be able to enjoy it more because that was the most stressful time. Right after that, we got the computer replaced, and it was all better after that, but we had to be in Seattle by a certain time because we were going on a cruise to Alaska with Sam's family, which was not in the van, but we had an actual deadline. That was the only time frame that we had for our whole trip. We were like, we have to be here by this time to get on this boat. And so we broke down in Utah in Moab, which is this tiny little town that has gorgeous national parks around it and lots of cool outdoors activities, but nothing else. There's nothing in the town. And the van would not start at all. It didn't start back up ever from that point on until we got the computer replaced. So we had to take it on a 3-hour tow ride from Moab into the nearest biggest city, which was 3 hours and 20 minutes away. It was totally worth it. And we got to see everything we wanted to see in that time. So it worked out fine. The tow truck driver was super nice. It wasn't weird or awkward at all, but it was really stressful that night because it was like, we worked down at this hamburger place, which I can't remember the name of right now, but again, check the Instagram. There's a picture of the van on the tow truck there, and that hamburger place was like known for being amazing and one of the best ones. And I had been mostly vegetarian, but I was like, I'm gonna eat a hamburger tonight. And we all were just like, this is great. We have hamburgers and milkshakes. Like, what else could we want? And we met this other van couple there who were they were like angels that were just rescued us kind of in our moment of the most stressed out we had been at all. And they talked to us and just kind of calmed us down and reminded us of why we were doing this thing and why it's a really positive experience. And I was like, I feel so lucky. We just met these incredible people. We got to eat this incredible food, and who cares that we're broken down? It's fine.
Totally. Oh, you mentioned you're vegetarian? What'd you say?
No, I'm not, but I go off and on, and I had been for a while at that point. And I when we were traveling, I tried to eat as much vegan as I could just because it's a lot easier in California and in a lot of places that aren't here. So anytime we had an opportunity, we would like go to a vegan restaurant and try it out. And
would you cook in the van a lot?
Yeah, I cooked breakfast every day in the van, and we cooked dinner usually in the van. We tried everywhere we go. We would try to eat like one meal in that area to try it out, like see whatever their local thing was that we needed to try.
Rule. That's a good rule.
Yeah, for sure. And my aunt was always like, post more food pictures. I want to see what you're eating. And a lot of times I was like, we're just eating normal stuff in the van. Like we had spaghetti last night and we just made a sandwich today. It's not that exciting.
Sure.
But yeah, we cooked in the van a lot. The mini fridge holds a lot more than you'd think it would. And the stove is like a normal stove. And
is it propane?
Yep, it's propane. So the fridge can run off of the car battery plugged into an outlet at an RV park or propane, and it can switch between the three, which was really cool.
Awesome.
I thought. And there's also marine batteries in the side of the van that you can use to jump off the main battery if you need to, and those can power the other things. But the toaster oven will only run if you're plugged in or with the generator. We have a generator too.
Yeah, I had all my ingredients ready to go, and I brought my like silver bullet or ninja blender thing, and I'm like, yeah, pulled over side of the road, got like everything ready to go, and I pushed the button on the blender and realized I wasn't in the right situation, so nothing happened.
No.
Yeah, just like, oh,
Oh,
that doesn't
work.
work right now. Right now,
It'll work later.
where I am right here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a big learning curve. So I can imagine that like. Hopefully as you go, the stress goes down and like
and we kind of prepared
routine.
a lot. Like you said, you watch a lot of YouTube van life things. We did that as well. And we like researched, kind of figured out what we thought we might need and what were going to be some difficulties. And so for kitchenware, I bought I had a, retractable, I don't know if that's the word, like an expandable kettle that you can pop down. It gets really small and then it'll pop back up, and it's a kettle for tea and coffee. And we just had a little mini French press, and then I had a mini food processor, like everything mini, which was great because we could fit everything in this one little cabinet, all of our kitchenware. And then this was our pantry where we put all of our food, and it was plenty of space actually. I mean, we did well with organization. I think I can show you the closet later. We like hung up all these shoe pockets and stuff that we used for organization, and it worked out pretty well. I think like I said, we sold almost everything we owned because we were trying to just get down to almost nothing. And I think we did. I mean, we had too much. We had more than we needed for sure.
Right.
There was never a time where we like needed something we didn't have that I can think of.
Yeah, we totally overpacked like crazy. So were you able, because I'm a pack rat and I need to purge badly in my life. But did you find that like that time period of you living in the van, now that you're back to your normal life, you are less inclined to just gather things?
I don't know. It's at first I would say yes. It kind of stressed me out that I was like, oh, I have a job now and I have to get business casual clothes because I was only wearing like yoga pants every day or a silk kimono. That was like my only wardrobe, which was living the dream in my opinion.
No
I was just
joke.
like, all I wear is silk robes. I don't wear clothes. And so I had to buy like business casual wear again and restock my closet. And I was like, I don't want to own things. I don't want to have a closet full of clothes.
Totally.
But then I kind of got used to it again and was like, okay, I need more clothes.
Yeah.
So in a way, there's some things where I'm just like, no, I don't need extra things. But clothes is probably the hardest one where I'm like, I do need clothes actually because I'm in a city now and I have lots of different scenarios that I need to be dressed for. But honestly, I could probably just wear the silk kimono or yoga pants if I wanted to in Birmingham. No one would care.
I may
Except
start
work.
wearing a silk kimono and
just
yoga
do
pants.
that.
That sounds amazing.
It's the way to go. If you're only at hot springs and like beaches every day, it's all you need.
Gosh.
One pair of hiking gear and yoga gear and a bathing suit.
Well, like I said, I'll link everything below to all your stuff. Y'all are awesome. And I understand Sam not wanting to be affiliated with a shady organization such as this podcast.
That's not it at all.
So I get it. No, I actually, that's awesome. Sam is just he's a chill guy.
Yeah,
you know?
he is. Yeah.
It's like,
he's a lot more introverted than me. Yeah, he's like, you're better at talking to people. You do it. He's like, I would just sit there and not talk anyway. I was like, we just want you on film, sitting quietly beside me. That's what you're good at.
If he's here, we should get a picture. Oh, okay. I'll Photoshop him in.
He knew you were gonna get a picture if he was here.
I'll Photoshop him in.
You're like, look at this quiet guy over here.
Perfect.
I did want to say one
please.
thing in closing that I feel like what I've been contemplating since returning and things I get asked a lot are just like, has it changed you? I would say it definitely I changed on this trip because I was super extroverted before I left. I learned how to be alone, which was really hard for me at first. Even though I was with Sam all the time, it's still like sometimes being with him, he's like an extension of me and it feels like being alone.
Sure.
So I kind of learned how to be with myself and be content in that, which was a huge thing. I think that everyone should learn, but it's been hard coming back here and being like constantly busy and hanging out with friends. And I have to figure out how to get that balance now of alone time and time with friends, which I've never had to do before because I've never felt like I needed alone time. But now I feel like I need it. And I'm like, I miss the woods. But one thing I'd say that I'm like the most grateful for and have learned from this experience is to just respect your community and don't take things for granted. And like when I was gone, I missed everything that I had took for granted here. And I've been wanting to get out of Birmingham for so long and just being like, I want to leave here. Since I was 12 years old, I've been talking about leaving Birmingham. And I keep leaving and keep coming back. And this time was the first time I really wanted to come back. And I really appreciate Alabama and Birmingham. And like the people here and the community here is special. And you just have to recognize that and not always think that the grass is greener on the other side, because as amazing as this experience was, I was sad and wanted to be back in Birmingham a lot of the time as well, which was crazy to me at the time. But I think that that's something I want to share with people in Birmingham, because I think a lot of people here feel that way and they always want to leave. And it really is a special place, so don't take it for granted.
That's it for this episode, and this week's featured nonprofit is Hand in Paw. Their goal is to improve human health and well-being through animal-assisted therapy. Hand in Paw's 150 professionally trained volunteers visit patients across the state accompanied by a therapy animal, usually a dog. How fun is that? This is a huge morale booster for the patients and their families and lets them forget, even if only for a few moments, that they are fighting a critical illness. For more info about Hand in Paw, go to handinpaw.org. Next week's guest is a friend and co-worker of mine at the Rick and Bubba Show, Greg Burgess. He spent many years as a lineman for Alabama Power, and we're going to talk about all things electricity. And other stuff too. Whatever happens, happens. It's Greg, so you know it's gonna be good. Thank you for watching or listening, liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing, and caring. I will see you next Thursday. Thanks for letting me just nerd out. Really, the whole thing was just a ploy just to sit in the back of this van.
So you're welcome anytime.